There's another area in Mangrove Key it's an abandoned village between Victoria Point and Orange Hill. And if you were to walk that area during the night, any night by yourself, you're bound to meet a hog with 9 pigs. Now don't ask me why 9 pigs, but people from Inagua and Cat Island would also tell you about this hog with 9 pigs. You know, and in those days, it wasn't easy to communicate with the people in the Inagua and Cat Island 50 years ago. You know what I mean? And they'll tell you about this hog with these 9 pigs. And this guy went to Grant, the next settlement down, to visit with his family, and he had a bicycle. And of course, after he visited with his family for a little while, and he's on the way back home, lo and behold, when he get to that area, big fig tree on the right, hog appear with 9 pigs, blocked the road off, and he couldn't go, couldn't move. Held them hostage for about 10 to 15 minutes. At that time, he put his bicycle down, and when they did open the gate for him again, he left his bicycle, and gone. Many people will tell you the same story if you want to go to Mangrove Key tomorrow with this hog and these 9 pigs. And you know, so the stories are not made up, and no stories in this book is made up. I could make these stories up. I can do that. How could I do that? I've given you place and specifics and everything about these different stories that I saw, ghosts that I saw as a child growing up. Now, one of my favorite chapters in this book is my grandmother's funeral. You know, after I left home in '58, came to Nassau, we only used to go back once every now and then and visit with my parents and my grandparents. My grandmother died, and we went down to the funeral. Now, one thing on your island is you never let 12 o'clock meet you in a graveyard. That's all. Never let 12 o'clock meet you in the graveyard. So my uncle told his uncle, who was my granduncle, who was going to funeralize my grandmother that day. He said, "Now, Uncle," he said, "I know you are a long-winded preacher." He said, 11 o'clock, I'm taking my ma out of here to the cemetery to bury her. 11 o'clock would give you like 1 hour to do that and get out of there. And my granduncle said, "Yeah, okay, no problem." So start the funeral service, and then he started preaching, and he can picturize Paul, and he can picturize Jonah in the belly of the whale, and he can picturize all these things. 10 minutes to 11, my uncle stood up next to the coffin, give him a signal. He ain't watching no signal now. He continued to preach and preach and preach and preach and preach. My uncle gave him one cut eye there, almost kill him, but that didn't worry him. So 11 o'clock, my uncle started to pull the coffin out of the church. Then he got the message, cut the funeral short, and everybody vanished out of the church in less than no time. I had a movie camera, and just about then I ran out of film and I had to reload my camera. It took me about a minute to do that in the church. When I came out of the church and looked on the road, not so. Them guys ought to say long time going towards the cemetery. I caught up with them just before we got into the cemetery. And again, as soon as we get into the cemetery and the graveside service got started, my uncle scoop up a handful of tape, waiting for my one uncle will say, dust to dust and ashes to ashes, and so forth. This guy, he's a long-winded preacher. You don't understand. You know? So he's keep preaching, and about 10 minutes to 12, my uncle was able to get him to stop preaching. And then 3 men came there with a shower, with showers. I never seen a 6 by 4 feet hole close up so fast. 2 seconds flat, they finished. And it was a comedy. This guy said, you know how they use ropes to get the coffin in the grave? This guy said, watch it, Frank, watch it for the quicksand you can get, slip in there. And it was a whole comedy, you know. And they got that thing, that grave core up, and put the flowers on it, and another thing they also do on the island in those days is to, all the utensils that you use when you sit, they don't keep that in no house, boy. I'm going down the grave with you. Don't care what it is. They throw all of that there, and in 2 seconds everybody gone. So me and my brother and a couple other friends, we ain't been on for a little while and so forth. We tarry a little bit in the graveyard to talk. We talk a little bit for about a half an hour. And when we leave from the graveyard and we went to the settlement proper, you couldn't see a black suit nowhere in that settlement. Everybody back to work. You painting the boat or cleaning the whatever, the yard, or if somebody had walked in that settlement, then they would never thought you just had a funeral there. So when 12 o'clock come, boy, it's time to get out of there. Now I don't know for what reason, but that's just the way it is. And that's one of my favorite stories in this book. And the book is very simple and easy to read. A chapter only contains of 2 pages or something like that. You can read the whole thing in 2 hours and put it away. It's a good cultural book, and it's a good thing, especially for Bahamian to have. I think this is about the only book that is written on ghost stories in the Bahamas that you can find right now. Somebody's going to copy me sometime down the line. But I'm the only one, I'm the only Bahamian who can say, I saw the ghost and I wrote the book. Okay. Now, I don't think you want me to go through any more of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be any surprise for you when you get the book to read.
Mr. Smith, there was one in there about somebody who got lost in the bush.
Yes.
Tell us that one, because I had a question afterwards.
Okay. This is one from Cat Island. And of course, this lady was in her room one evening by herself. And some people who she thought was people came to the window and tell her to come go with them. And of course, she didn't inform anybody else in the house, and she just went with this group of patients. And another thing too is ghosts does have some power over you. One of the things is you would never stop and think and say, let me check and see if that is a ghost. You would never, that thought would never come to your mind until the ghost has disappeared. So she went with them, and she was lost in the woods for a couple of days. Well, couldn't find her, nobody could find her, and so forth and so forth. And when they did found her, all the people who were looking for her, their clothes was torn by this briar wine. They were tired, they were sleepy and hungry and everything. When they found her, she was just as cool as a cucumber, as if nothing had happened. She was right there. And she tell them the story and say, look, I could see you all calling me and shouting for me. I did the same thing, but you all couldn't hear me. And this is normal. They couldn't hear her. And she was lost for 2 or 3 days And when she was found, didn't have a scratch on her body, was not tired, and was not hungry. Now, some supernatural force kept her like that. You know, like I say, you just go through these experiences and you don't even think about anything until it's just all out. Now, your question was?
So she knew where she was? During the time she disappeared, she knew who had and what happened?
No.
Oh, she didn't. She was just a time missing.
Yeah, she was just missing, and something was looking after her. But like I say, she wasn't tired, she wasn't sleepy, she wasn't hungry. Her clothes didn't have no torn on it or anything like that. But the people who was looking for her, when they found her, they were all tired, sleepy, and so forth and so forth. And of course, some time ago, you remember when those two boys was missing in Andres?
Yes.
When they found them, the boys said, look, boy, we had pizza. We eat pizza and we eat all this kind of stuff. But of course, that is only imaginary. I mean, you don't know. I mean, you know. And this is what they said. And when they were found, they were lost for 33 days. And everybody in the settlement was looking for them and couldn't find them. And they were right there. Then they found them, they was walking on the main road, right in the same settlement. So you can't find people, you can't see them, they can't hear you, etc., etc.
I just have one more question. You said the ghost would take the form of a bird, an animal, or what else?
A bird, an animal, or a person.
So, but how come these people think that they know these people? Then that, like the one who was walking with the one who was sitting late with his girlfriend, and someone walked with him.
Oh, yeah.
So you could recognize it as someone you know.
Yes. Ghost has nothing to do with a dead person. And like I mentioned, that he was so glad for this company, and he followed that man all the way till he reached a block away from home, and never thought that it might have been a ghost. Never thought that on the way home. But then he didn't go through all that frustration of walking home in the dark by himself. Go save him. One time ago, a ship was on the high seas going from point A to point B, and they got in a violent storm, and the ship was tossed from side to side, and captain and everybody was confused. They got lost, didn't know where they were going. Unbeknown to them, the ship was heading for a deadly reef. While they were heading for that deadly reef, suddenly a light appeared on the starboard side of the ship, and the captain told the man who was steering the ship, said, go head for that light. Head for that light for about a half an hour, and then the light disappeared. The next day, when the storm was past and gone, and everything was back to normal, the captain checked his chart, and there were no lighthouse within 50-mile radius of this incident took place. No lighthouse within 50-mile radius. That ship was heading for a reef, a deadly reef that was going to destroy the ship and everybody. Now you could say what you want to say, I don't know, but there was some supernatural force that caused that to happen. And many times things happen and you don't know why you do it, and so forth and so forth. But then it's just like when you get a notion and a feeling to do something, and you do that thing without any debate or any logical reason, 9 times out of 10 you'll be right. But we don't do that. You get a strong feeling to do something. I hear people all the time, and mostly with the numbers business. Boy, I was going to buy that number. But didn't buy it. But 9 times out of 10, if you do what that gut feelings, that's your subconscious mind telling you to do something. If you do that 9 times out of 10, you'll be right.